Binge the full week of The Ray Taylor Show ad-free over at inspireddisorder.com/plus.
This is The Ray Taylor Show.
The Green Knight is a movie that came out this past year from A24, written and directed by David Lowery, starring Dev Patel, Alicia Vikander, and Joel Edgerton, among others. It is a sword and sandal type of a movie, a fantasy type of a movie. King Arthur-esque. I think he's the older character in this. Apparently comes from like an old poem from the medieval times or whatever. Anyway, it's a movie that I heard about, and that's on probably the top of some people's lists. I don't know if it would make my list necessarily, but a beautiful film, a movie, and a simple story. I just think there's aspects of the story that kind of lose me in the second half or the last third, maybe. There's aspects of this story that didn't really hit with me, but the start of it definitely did. I mean, it's beautifully shot, looks amazing. Dev Patel, amazing actor. I don't think I've ever seen him in something that I didn't like. He plays he's like this spoiled kid. His mom's a witch, but he's like lives with King Arthur, and he's like the young kid. He's not quite a knight. All he does is go to brothels and get drunk. He's like a degenerate 20-year-old kind of a guy, maybe a little bit older than that, but like if it were modern day, he'd be like the kind of the college party animal kind of a guy, and he wants to be a knight. There's a scene where they're kind of in this room, and the king asks him to tell him a story, and he's like, I don't have any stories. And, he's talking about, looking on the all of the other knights that are there who are much older than them and have like their heroic tales. And he yearns to have a heroic tale of his own. He wishes to have, that epic journey, that quest that he wants to have that for himself. He wants to begin his journey and to be like one of those heroes that he looks up to. And his mom does this like this thing, this game, she plans this kind of like, she casts this spell that brings the Green Knight, who's like this tree looking guy, right? Which I'm colorblind. I'm assuming he's green. But he looks like a tree, but like a knight. But, instead of skin, instead of a helmet or whatever, he's like a tree. It looks amazing. Like everything in this amazing. The magical moments, the magical aspects of this are amazing. So this knight, this Green Knight shows up, and he's asking for somebody to play a game with him, basically. And he's looking for somebody to volunteer. And this young kid, Gawain, who's Dev Patel's character, volunteers, right? This is his start. This is his opportunity to have a tale, to have a journey, to start becoming a knight, to start becoming a man. And then when he gives the rules of this game is that like we will have a battle right now between you and me. If you best me in whatever way, whether it be a nick to the skin, a slice of the shoulder, whatever it is, if you best me in this battle, in this duel or whatever, then in 1 year, which is this is taking place on Christmas, so the following Christmas, you will have to travel 5 nights north to the Green Chapel, and you will have to let me bestow upon you the same thing, the same wound that you gave to me. Which is like, okay. It's like, just like, and I like spoilers, obviously. I'm going to be talking about details of this movie, But that's kind of the setup for it. It's like, okay, what's he going to do? Like this is like clearly going to be the start, right? We're going to be following him to the Green Chapel. That's going to be his tale. That's what this movie is. So spoilers. So he can do anything to the Green Knight. He chooses, which makes sense. He's young, he's dumb, he's full of cum. He chooses, right? Because he wants to be epic. He wants to be like his heroes that are watching him right now. He wants to, and he wants to do it immediately. Like, just like so many people. Like they just assume that they can just take shortcuts, and it like somehow works out. Like experience has nothing to do with like success. You know, to get good at a thing, to have experience at a thing, has nothing to do with being an epic, hero. So given the opportunity to attack this Green Knight in any way he wants, he decides to chop his head off. And in that moment, I know that he has to, in a year's time, travel 5 days north to then get his head chopped off. And I'm like, this kid's stupid, as most kids are. But I'm like, let's see what happens. Like, is he going to go get his head chopped off? I mean, this is like this prophecy thing. Clearly there's magical. There's a tree guy that just came in. And his mom's doing magic, clearly. So he leaves. The tree guy's like, picks up his head. And he's like, oh, I got you now, kid. Now I get to chop your head off in a year. And he leaves. So then it's like kind of like they don't really show, like maybe a montage, whatever. You see the mom like sews, like she carves this thing into like these little symbols into this wooden thing, and she wraps it in a cloth, and she makes it into a belt, and she gives it to him. She's like, here, this belt is going to protect you from being beheaded. Right? So as long as you have this belt, and he has the axe. The Green Knight left his axe. It's like, you have to deliver this axe back to me. Right? And then I will bestow upon you what you just did to me. So she gives him this belt. It's like, here, wear this. You're not going to get your head chopped off. You dumb kid. And then he sets off the next, few days before Christmas. Gives him time to ride the 5 days up to the Green Chapel.
The Many Faces is an ongoing abstract ink portrait series that I started many years ago. I release a new face every day, but go to inspireddisorder.com to check them out. So many available. But as a listener to The Ray Taylor Show, you can save 10% when you use coupon code INSPIRED when you check out. So go to inspireddisorder.com/TMF, that stands for The Many Faces. Go check them out, browse the entire collection, and when you decide on a piece, or maybe multiple pieces, make sure you use coupon code INSPIRED when you check out, and you'll save 10% as a big thank you for checking out my work, for collecting my work, and for listening to The Ray Taylor Show. And with that said, let's get back to the show.
And on his trip, great casting. He runs into this kid that's out in like this battlefield that's, just dead bodies everywhere. You see the smoke coming off the dead body, the steam coming off the dead bodies, and he's looking for his brother. And he's like, the Gawain asks him if, or he offers to, he basically gets directions from this kid. It's like, oh, I think I know that Green Chapel. You just go this way by a stream. And he's like, oh, you going to pay me for that? Like, the kid wants some payment for helping, right? A little back and forth. And Gawain's like spoiled. He's a spoiled kid. So he's not used to having to give. He's always just kind of been taken care of his whole life. Just be the degenerate kid, lives with his mom, doesn't really have to do anything, not a responsible adult by any means, clearly doesn't think ahead to consequences because he chopped the Green Knight's head off. But this kid's asking for a thing. He flips him a coin, and he's like, there you go, that's your payment, thank you very much. And he, takes off to what ends up being, clearly was going to be, because this kid has zero what would be called today street smarts, quote unquote. Gawain has zero street smarts and just like believes this kid because like, why would anybody lie to me? I am basically royalty. So he ends up getting ambushed by that kid and a couple other kids, and they steal all his shit. They tie him up, they get the axe, they get the horse, they get everything. And it's like immediately, like the beginning of his journey, and it immediately gets just like snatched out from under him. Just like he sucks, has zero experience. He's on this mission where he just has to ride 5 days north. He doesn't even know where north is. And immediately gets everything taken away. So they leave, but they left one of his swords, or they left his sword, so he goes over and he cuts himself out. And he goes. And it's like, then he runs into then it's like when that moment happened, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So now it's like he's on his own. Like he's gotta, like it's gonna be this journey where he's gotta collect his things as he's on his way to the Green Chapel to end up getting his head cut off. He's finally facing adversity in his entire life. That's the first moment of adversity he's ever faced, and he failed miserably. So he gets out of it. He's running, finds this like abandoned shack or whatever, falls asleep, gets woken up by this girl who ends up being a ghost. And as we know, ghost rules. They're there until something is resolved from their past, and then they can move on. And her thing is that her head got cut off as well, and is in this lake, and he has to go get it. So he does this good deed, right? I mean, he was sleeping in her bed, so might as well do this good deed. Gets the skull, puts it on the thing, and then it's kind of it. Then this fox shows up. These giant I mean, everything is beautiful, by the way. Don't get me wrong. Cinematography, gorgeous. Like just everything in frame is beautiful. Every aspect of this movie, beautiful. The way they handled the ghost thing, the way, just everything. It's great. It's great. But the journey's kind of like, what's going on? This journey, I'm like, I don't know, like, what was that about? But I think the axe was there. Like, so he does this kindness, and he receives the axe. Like, he receives one of the items that he lost. And then he goes, and then he, like, stumbles upon, I think he rides with these giants, and then he comes to this, like, mansion that's out in the middle of nowhere, this castle that's out in the middle of nowhere, and that's where you have Joel Edgerton and Alicia Vikander, and it's like a weird thing. It's like, here, you're like way ahead. That chapel's just a couple days away. You can stay here, rest up, eat. I'm going to go hunting. You can share the hunting. Afterwards, you do me a kindness. There's this weird thing with the woman that's there. There's a weird scene where he like comes on his belt. I think that was given to him again, like he receives the belt again now. So now he's got his protective belt. He's got the axe, so he has the axe to return. He's got the belt to help protect his neck. That whole scene with that interaction with those people in that house is like, what's going on? But okay, it's like it's not bad. It's just I don't understand what that has to do with anything. Clearly, there's a lot of metaphorical things that are going on that are supposed to, in my mind, supposed to kind of show you that this kid is like gaining, like this is going to be his epic story, where he lost everything in the beginning and he's struggling to collect everything back and struggling to get these things to fulfill his promise, to fulfill his obligation to end, because after, like, the thing is with the Green Knight, he's like, you come to me next year, five days north, I bestow upon you the same thing you did to me, and then we will part as friends with mutual respect and honor and all this stuff. Right? So he's going to get the honor. He's going to fulfill his destiny. And it's just this weird thing. He ends up, like, not liking the situation. He ends up kissing Joel Edgerton for some reason. Joel Edgerton kisses him for some reason as he's leaving. It's just weird. Like, that whole part didn't really make sense to me. I don't know. There's just the aspect. Everything else is amazing. It's just the storytelling was a little off. The storytelling was just slightly obscure, obtuse, hard to see, hard to understand. But I get, it's like I understand what's going on, like the overall messaging. At least to me, I've heard other people, kind of view this film in a different manner. So he gets to the chapel. Beautiful, basically just like, surrounded by trees and branches, and you see the Green Knight. I mean, he shows up early, so it's like the Green Knight is like almost plugged into the trees, regenerating, waiting for this kid, waiting to wake up on Christmas Day to meet with this kid, with their appointment. He wakes up, the kid's like, okay, gets in the position to, like, get his head chopped off, and he, like, backs away like 3 times as he's going to get his, and he's got his belt on, his magical belt that his magical mom gave to him. Although that he came on, it's very weird. There's a blind lady with the thing over her eyes at the. There's very weird. But because he's a kid, because he's weak. He's weak. He has no experience. He has no ability. And he's never had to do anything. He's never had to sacrifice anything. He's never had to pay for anything. And this is the ultimate payment. This is the tit for tat. You cut his head off, now he's got to cut your head off, because that's fair in this magical, mystical world. But he doesn't want it to happen. And he ends up running away. His horse happens to be out there, takes off. And then it's like this montage of, like, things as time goes on after he runs away, where it's like he's older, he ends up becoming a knight, becoming the king, wearing the crown, ends up having a kid, right? Having a kid from one of the prostitutes at the brothel, that she's into him, he's not into her. They pay for the kid, raise the kid dies in battle. Like, all these horrible things. Then he's like, at the end of it, you see him on the throne, just hunched over, people, slamming into the door, trying to get in, trying to conquer their castle. And he's just like, his life has been miserable. He's had a miserable life because he ran away, from his responsibility, because he ran away from this oath that he took, this game that was played. He ran away because he's a scared little boy. And because of that, everything just crumbles around him, because he's never stood up for anything. Join Inspired Disorder Plus today. Head on over to inspireddisorder.com/plus to join. Membership includes members-only discounts and deals. You get access to the Ray Taylor Show completely ad-free, as well as bonus episodes. You get access to the complete live painting archive. You also get access to every single podcast ever produced by Inspired Disorder, hosted by Ray Taylor. You get access to Ray Taylor's personal blog, as well as the opportunity to ask me any questions. So if you want to start a podcast, you're into art, ask me anything. And so many more things are being added every day to Inspired Disorder Plus. So sign up today, become a member, head on over to inspireddisorder.com/plus,
and become an Inspired Disorder Plus member today.
And he finally removes this belt that he's had on, around him, protecting him for his whole life. Removes it, and his head falls off. And then at that moment, you realize that it's just in his head. I mean, people interpret it differently, but the way I interpreted it, he's back in the Green Chapel, back to that point where he was hesitant, about to get his head chopped off. And it's almost like he's given a second chance, but not really. It's basically, the way I interpret it, he's at the Green Chapel, he pulls away, and then he's thinking in his head, well, what happens in my life if I don't do this? My life is just going to be horrible. No matter, I will never be able to run away from you can't run away from life. You can't run away from everything. I have to do this thing. And it's I have the belt to protect me. Let's see if it works. See what happens. But he's thinking of this stuff. Just assuming this life he's going to have. This is going to be horrible and just bad thing after bad thing. And in my opinion, so in that moment, he takes the belt off, right? He says one more time, wait. He takes the belt off and puts it down. And at that point, the Green Knight realizes that he's in my opinion, him taking the belt off is him doing the ultimate running away. He leaves the belt on, he survives somehow, maybe his head gets reattached, the Green Knight's head got reattached because he's got this belt on, right? But he removes the belt, which in my opinion means that if his head gets cut off, he's dead. So it's him basically committing suicide. It's the ultimate runaway. It's the ultimate cowardly move for him. Because he assumes there's nothing good's going to happen in his life. Because if he runs away, he's always going to have this over his head, and he doesn't even want to experience life in any way. He has too much fear of the unknown, so instead of experiencing the unknown, he's just going to let it go. And I think in that moment, the Green Knight realizes that he's running away, that he's going to allow the Green Knight to cut his head off. He laughs, gets down, is oh, now off with your head. And then it ends. Apparently there's a scene where his head gets an alternate ending where you see his head get cut off, but they don't show it. I assume that he gets his head cut off and dies. And it's about it's like an anti-suicide story, basically, in my opinion, because he is that that type of character. He is that he's the guy that never takes responsibility for his actions. He always, he's never thinking about the other people, a just extreme narcissist. And I'm not saying that those are the types of people that commit suicide, but those are the types of people that will run away from situations. And the ultimate running away from his situation, his life as potentially a knight, which he doesn't like, his life as a king, which only comes with pain, which, the life of, having kids and seeing them die in battle, that life he doesn't want to live. He got a taste of it on this little journey, and he doesn't want to have it anymore. So he allows the Green Knight to kill him. That's my opinion. Other people think that he didn't get his head cut off, that it was just about him accepting that his head's going to get cut off. But that wasn't the rule. In my opinion, that wasn't the rules. What I think is that belt, if he kept it on, got his head cut off, be able to glue it back on with magic, whatever. We're in that kind of reality. But because he takes the belt off, that means that when his head gets cut off, that's it. And the Green Knight saw that. He's like, oh, he does it. He is saying to me that he wants out. He's not built for this life. He's not built to be a knight. He's not built to be a leader. He is the one that runs away, right? He is the spoiled child of royalty. Doesn't want to actually experience the hardship of life that would take him to be an actual king, to be an actual leader. He wants the easy way out. And the easiest way out for him is to just hit the log out button on reality. And he will let the Green Knight do it because that will be his one and only time he will have lived up to his responsibility, but taking off the protection that his mom gave him. So that's my interpretation of the ending of that movie. I've heard other things. Clearly there's people that know the poem that it's the story that it's based off of. But watching the movie, I would have liked it a lot better if the narrative, the story was had a little bit more clarity to it. Because I love the magical moments. I thought it looked amazing. The giants, they're just these gorgeous naked women that were giants, like giant. You see their hand go on like a mountain. And they're just walking in this mist. It's like an amazing, like the universe that it's in. Everything was great. But just the messaging and the storytelling and like the kind of the randomness of some things didn't feel fully fleshed out. So like it's got holes. But I really appreciate it. I liked it a lot. Despite that, I thought it was something that I made sure to go listen to. I went and listened to the Filmcast, did a review of The Green Knight a few months ago. So I went back and listened to that. Just to see how other people interpreted it. And it was amazing how differently it was interpreted from what I felt like it was. Like they felt the Gawain was a lot more, had more redemption, had more redeemable qualities, I believe, than I did. I didn't think, and they mentioned that initially that character was a lot more unlikable. So knowing that the character is supposed to be more unlikable, like that, it makes sense because he's a spoiled brat who doesn't want to pay for his he doesn't want to follow through on his responsibilities when given the chance. He's the one that fails immediately on his mission, like immediately fails, gets taken advantage of effortlessly. Slowly starts to find some redemption in doing things, but ultimately seems like he wants out. And that's how I read it. So let me know how you read it. A weird Christmas movie, too. Weird that's like the point in time. Nothing really has Christmas. It's not Christmassy in any way, other than the fact that it starts on Christmas, and then in the next year he's supposed to go, get his head cut off the next Christmas. But anyway, let me know what your thoughts are on it. And it was beautiful. Like, I'll definitely watch anything. I mean, Dev Patel's amazing. And David Lowery's visually, it was amazing. It was beautiful. Beautiful. Storytelling, maybe, I don't know. What are you going to do? But it was A24. So you kind of, it wasn't as obscure as I thought it was going to be. Wasn't as obscure. Wasn't as slow as I thought it was going to be. I was like in. Once I found out what the premise was, I was like, oh, I'm in. And then once seeing the visuals of it, it's like, oh, this is cool. A little confusing, but it's cool. It's like even when he goes to the place with Joel Edgerton and Vic Ander, it's like, okay, that's weird. Like, why is the old lady there blindfolded? Why is she watching him getting jerked off on it? It's like, what's going on? But I mean, similarly confusing in ways that are a lot like Titan. That was a very weird movie. I like Titan actually quite a bit more than The Green Knight, but still, that's still a crazy movie too. But anyway, The Green Knight, check it out. It's beautiful. New episodes of The Ray Taylor Show come out every single day. Subscribe on YouTube and everywhere our podcasts are found. Binge the full week over at inspireddisorder.com/plus. Buy Ray Taylor Show merch over at inspireddisorder.com. And follow the show on Instagram at Ray Taylor Show. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace out. coverage.
Today is the day where you wake up and you realize that everything that you've been dreaming about, everything that you've been wanting, every goal and wish and hope that you've ever had can become real. Dreams can come true. What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.